batteries, no computer monitors working, all sorts of stuff like that. So I'm just going to have to be a loudmouth. But even in the middle of all our difficulties, I take comfort. Actually, I'm learning to take comfort, I should say. In verses like Romans 8:28, where it says that God uses all things for the good of those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. That doesn't mean all the things that happen to us are good, but it means God can use them for our good. Amen? So we're continuing in our book of James, and I'll be honest with you, James makes me very uncomfortable. I think it should make all of us uncomfortable. George Weston and I were in my office yesterday talking about James, and a lot of scholars believe it's James, the half-brother of Christ. And so, if that's the case, James wasn't a scholar. He was a carpenter, like his dad and his brother before him. And so he speaks to people directly. He shoots from the hip. He doesn't write like Paul and kind of make it seem nicer. James just tells you, you're being stupid. We're actually going to read that today. He's like, oh, you stupid. Well, a foolish person, same thing. So James speaks directly to us. And I hope this morning that as we get into this word, as we go chapter and verse by James chapter 2, I hope, hey, you also read it. That's part of our Bible study this week. But I hope the Lord will also speak to you as He's been speaking to me. Let's just get right into it. At the start, James reminds us that the church is not about who's who. And I want to get into that before we get to our scripture. I want to kind of talk about Jesus Himself. Let's think about who Jesus hung around. It made the religious people antsy and nervous that Jesus hung around prostitutes and tax collectors and drunks and all sorts of people. One day the Pharisees actually confronted His disciples. Why does your master eat with tax collectors and sinners? And Jesus overheard it. He says, well, quite frankly, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And I might be reading too much into the context of that, but when I hear Jesus say that, I always hear a hint of sarcasm. If you don't think you're good, or if you think you're too good for me, you don't need me. If you think you've got everything together, and if you think that your works can save you, and you think that the things that you do are enough, more power to you. The thing is, Jesus can't work in our lives, and I say can't because He won't. My mom's fond of saying that God's a gentleman, He won't go where He's not asked. Jesus can't and won't work in our lives if we don't have a need for Him. These days, too many people don't see a need to be saved, A, because we're so busy trying to bury our heads in the sand and say, well, at least I'm not as bad as so-and-so. Or we're just trying to pretend like we've got it all together. This morning, if you're pretending like you've got it all together, you're in the wrong place. Because as you can see from everything, we don't have it all together. And the only one who had it all together was nailed to a tree. Let's get right into our word. James chapter 2. My brethren, do not hold your faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ with an attitude of personal favoritism. For if a man comes into your assembly with a golden ring and dressed in fine clothes, and there also comes in a poor man in dirty clothes, and you pay special attention to the one who is wearing the fine clothes, you say, sit here in a good place. And you say to the poor man, you stand over there, or sit down by my footstool. Have you not made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil motives? When I read that, I was reminded of a story. This is a true story, by the way. This very large church was getting a new pastor in. They didn't know what he looked like. Only the elders of the selection committee had met him. And one Sunday, when they're expecting their new pastor, this dirty, decrepit, homeless person walks in. Unshaven, beard scraggly, clothes disgusting and torn and dirty. And people are getting upset because this homeless guy's here and a new preacher's coming. So when one of the elders gets up on stage and introduces the new pastor, the entire congregation was surprised to find out that this dirty, homeless bum got up on stage and preached a message that made everybody upset. Not because of how they treated this person. Well, the new pastor was this homeless bum, but because of how they had treated him. I'm also reminded of this story. We went to a concert a couple of weeks ago, and this pastor said he went to this foreign country, and he couldn't say the name of it, but he was speaking to ministers in the area, and the area they went to go speak, this church had razor wire all around, and these big concrete fences with bars marking any opening to them. And as he's being rushed, I guess this is a dangerous area, but he's being rushed to the sanctuary, he sees about 8 or 9 boys standing at his gate with their faces pressed up against the bars. And he stops and he asks one of his men, "Who are those?" "They're trouble. You don't want to deal with them." And he's up there on that stage and he's preaching, and he can't keep those kids out of his head. He almost hears Jesus speaking to him. He says, "The ones that nobody wants are the ones that I want after." Church. He went up to those boys, and at the end of this speech, there was still about 4 or 5 of them left, and he went and talked to them. He just gave them water, and he gave them little treats and stuff he had in his pockets. And 3 of those 4 boys said they wanted to know more about Jesus and chose to follow him that day. Because one person chose not to walk on by. Now, why am I saying that this morning? It's because I think sometimes people fall through the cracks in our church. And I'm not saying that we're not friendly, because we are. And I'm not saying that we're not unkind, because we are. But we just kind of let people go who we're not familiar with. We kind of let people go who we don't know too well. We like to be comfortable, and we like to be safe. Used to be when someone was pulled on the side of the road, somebody would stop and help them out. But nowadays, we're all so scared because you hear those stories of people robbing people doing that. But God doesn't tell us, go and do unto others as they would have them do to you, unless you don't feel comfortable. He says, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Period. Church, we can't show distinctions. We can't show favoritism towards one person based upon how they dress or act or their reputation. We're called to love everybody. And I'm going to tell you something. I've noticed this, is that the people who have been the most broken but have come to a relationship in Christ Jesus have been the most effective for Him. Because it's from a broken heart that Christ truly brings healing, and it takes root and it holds on. So we shouldn't have distinctions. Listen to what James says. Listen, my beloved brothers. Did not God choose the poor of this world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom which He promised to those who love Him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Is it not the rich who oppress you and personally drag you into court? Do they not blaspheme the fair name by which you have been called? See, something poor or poverty has taught many of us is that if God is all you have, you find you've got everything you need. I'll be honest with you. I'm not rich and I'm proud of it. The reason I say that, and I boast on that, and I talk about it so often, is because I've come to realize something. God has provided everything that I have. God has given me everything that I need. I don't have very many nice things, but God meets those gaps. When Michael and I look at our budget, and sometimes we wonder how, God provides. You've heard me say this over and over. I'm going to keep bragging on Him. I'm going to keep bragging on what God's doing on me until I'm out of breath to do so. But when we come and we say, okay, Lord, how are we going to do this? We're going to buy milk or vegetables, and then Sherry makes a dessert, and there's warm milk that she needs, and so we have 1.5 gallons extra of milk, and then someone shows up at our door 5 minutes later with a bag of vegetables. I don't know how to explain that. Both of the things we say we needed, God shows up and provides. And so, church, when we look at somebody who's less than us, status-wise, we shouldn't make those distinctions about them either. We can probably learn a lot more from them, because we who are more well endowed with our wealth and our riches and stuff, we have a tendency to rely more on our stuff and our money and our power than on the God who provides those. So this morning, church, I want to encourage you. If ever there's a stranger in our doors, Make it your personal mission to get to know them. Make it your personal mission to know them by name, to know them personally. Make a friendship with them. I met a man over the phone who I was praying for recently. And the man came to talk. He came to talk one time out of the 3 or 4 weeks that I was praying for him. And I found out 2 weeks ago that he passed away. But I was glad that for the few brief moments that I knew him, I lifted him up to the Lord Jesus Christ. Some people would dismiss this person. Doesn't look the part of a Christian for sure. Definitely has issues that Christians shouldn't have according to our own standards. But I was able to be a single bright spot, perhaps, I hope, before the Lord took him home. So church, what does that tell us? James continues by reminding us to follow the law of love. Listen to this, verse 8. If, however, you are fulfilling the royal law, according to the Scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You are doing well. It doesn't tell us who our neighbor is. I know I speak up a little bit, I'm sorry. If we're fulfilling that law, if you recall, Jesus was talking to some scribes and Pharisees, and he said, one of them tried to challenge Jesus and said, "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment?" And Jesus said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength." But the second is just like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And the scribe asked, "Well, teacher, who's my neighbor?" And I love how Jesus responded. He didn't give the man a direct answer. He told a story. You see, a certain man had been traveling between Jericho and Jerusalem along a dangerous route. We are not really sure why he was there. Maybe he was trading. We don't know. But bandits were known, even up until the 1940s, along this route. Probably still are. It was dangerous to travel. And this man was beset by robbers who beat him, stripped him down, and left him for dead. Sometime later, along the road, comes a priest. The priest looks at the man and he crosses to the other side of the road. We don't know why. But if you look at the laws of priests and what they could do, chances are if this man was dead and the priest stopped to check him and touch him, he'd become ceremoniously unclean. So he couldn't fulfill his duties in the temple. So he held his duties in the temple above this man's life. Another man, a Levite, who was also an important man. Levites served, they were a tribe of Israel whose sole job was to serve in the temple and serve God's house. He sees the man, says a quick prayer, and crosses the side of the road. It's dangerous. Oftentimes, robbers would leave someone along the side of the road, and when someone stopped to help, sounds kind of familiar, they set upon them and robbed them too. And so the Levite couldn't be bothered. He just kept on going on his way. Well, a third man comes along the road riding on a donkey. And this man is a Samaritan. For us, that doesn't really mean much unless you grew up in Sunday school. But Samaritans were universally hated by the Jews. They were considered half-breeds. Somewhere along the way, a son of a priest married a Gentile woman, which was against God's law, and a bunch of people followed him, and so the Samaritan people were a people. There still exist about 500 today. Samaritans are still around, and the Jews and the Samaritans still really don't like each other. When Jesus spoke the word Samaritan, he probably had a couple hisses for the people in his crowd, and they thought probably, surely this man is going to see if there's anything left and just rob him for whatever else he has left. But that's not how the story goes, is it? Jesus says that this Samaritan got off his donkey and he cleaned and dressed the man's wound. And then he walked while the man rode. Not only that, he checked the man in at the next inn. Hope you're hearing me. And as he left the next day, he said, keep this man here till he's well, and when I return, all his expenses will be incurred on me. Jesus asked the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which of these was the good neighbor? Church, if we're not loving, we're breaking the royal law. Jesus says this, or they will know you are my disciples by how you love one another. Jesus thought this law was so important that he attached it to love the Lord your God. Jesus said that loving your neighbor is on par with loving God. Why? Because God loves your neighbor. God died for your neighbor. And we don't treat people often enough like that is someone for whom Jesus died. Somewhere along the way, church, we've stopped caring about people's souls. We stopped caring about our neighbor's souls. And I'm not saying necessarily people in this room, but Christians in general. If you look, we've kind of just clung to our own little people groups. We stayed in our churches and we've huddled around where we felt it was safe. Meanwhile, there's people who are dying in the Middle East because they won't stop talking about Jesus. There's people who are coming to faith in Christ because of their Christian neighbors and then getting executed for it the next day. Why? Because Jesus is too important and someone's soul is more important than the consequences. But church, if we're not loving our neighbor as ourselves, we don't care about their eternity. We don't care about their souls. James says this, but if you show partiality, you're committing sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles in one point, he has become guilty of all. For he who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not commit murder. Now, if you do not commit adultery, but you do commit murder, you have become a transgressor of the law. And what does Jesus say? Murder is not simply a physical act. If you tell someone you hate them, you committed murder in your heart. So church, it's not our goodness that saves us. It's not how we measure up to our neighbors. Oftentimes when we look down upon our neighbor's sins, we're forgetting that royal law, love your neighbor as yourself, because we're judging our goodness by their badness. But according to God, all have sinned and fallen short of His glory. James says if you've committed one sin, you're guilty of all of them. I don't know about you, but I've read the entire book of Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, and there's a lot of law to break. So church, where do we stand? Are we following the royal law? Or are we breaking it? So speak and so act as those who are to be judged by the law of liberty. For judgment will be merciless to the one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. That gets me every time. When Jesus was chastising the Pharisees, he says, didn't you read what the prophets wrote? I require mercy, not sacrifice. You see, in Jesus' time, and sometimes I believe in churches we can be this way as well, the religious people had such a stranglehold over the synagogues and the temple that what happened was people could come to Christ and they'd come and they'd have their sins and they'd be upset, but they'd be looked down upon and shunned and made to sit in a different place. Mercy triumphs over judgment. Jesus says to him who shows mercy, I will show mercy. Are we being merciful this morning, church? James wraps up this section by reminding us we need to build a faith that works. I want you to really listen to this. What use is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but he has no works? I like what Tim read. His version said if there's no action. If a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warm and filled, and yet do not give them what is necessary for their body, what use is that? Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. Now here's my question to you, church. Would you buy a light bulb but not intend to use it? Would you buy food just to throw it away? Would you get a job and not show up? See, the thing is, Jesus tells us, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. There's no way around it. A lot of times we show up to church and we say, okay, I love God and I love Jesus and I do all these things and we do the dancing, we put on the perfect Christian faces, but we go home and live a life completely opposite. In other words, James is saying, put your money where your mouth is. If you say you're a Christian, if you claim Christ, prove it. The thing is, works can't save us. I promise you that. We can't be saved by the things we do. We talk about that pretty much on a weekly basis. I remember going to a funeral in California. There's some people from a pretty big church that were helping out with some of the arrangements, and I was asking about their church, and all they would tell me about is all the stuff they did. Yeah, we go to this other area, this poor town, and we go help out there in mission. Or we have this class, or we have this, or we have that. I said, but are you making disciples? Are you connecting with people? But we've got these programs, and we've got these things. The church in Laodicea church, if we read Revelation chapter 3, they had a lot of good works under their belt. They had a lot of things they did that were good. They gave to the poor. They did everything they were supposed to, but they lacked one thing. A real and honest relationship with Christ. See, James also brings up this example as if you see someone who is without food and clothing and you have the ability to help them, and yet you say to them, I'm going to pray for you. I'm just going to hope that Jesus is a big blessing to you today. And you're sitting there with a pantry full of food while this person's going away hungry with a prayer. What good is that? But I'll tell you what, someone's more open to the gospel with a full belly. Where do we stand, church? Are we a faith that is dead, where we maybe have some action or little action, or maybe we just say we believe in Jesus, but there's nothing to prove it? Listen to this. He actually talks about this. But someone may well say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one. You do well. Yet even the demons believe and shudder. See, church, it's not enough to simply believe in God. It's not enough to come to church. It's not enough to even do the big sales. It's surrendering completely to God. It's trusting God no matter what. See, as Miles comes, I'm going to read these examples. Here's what James points out. But you're willing to recognize, you foolish fellow, you stupid person, that faith without works is useless. Was not Abraham our father justified by his works when he offered up Isaac his son on the altar? And that's an amazing story in and of itself. Think about what Abraham did. Abraham had this son who was promised by God. And he said, through this son, I will make you the father of many nations. And then God turns around and tells him, go and sacrifice your son, your one and only son. Abraham says, okay. Isaac helps him carry up all the materials and helps him build the altar. And he asks, Father, where's the sacrifice? And Abraham says, the Lord will provide, son, and puts his son on the altar. I'm sure that Abraham was scared out of his mind. Here's his one and only son, and God has said, go and make a sacrifice of your son. But Abraham understood something about God that we often lack. Abraham knew that no matter what, God would fulfill his promise. That if Isaac was to be sacrificed, somehow some way, the God of the universe who promised this boy and miraculously delivered it to a 72-year-old lady, 76-year-old lady, that God of the universe would somehow make this happen. And so he put Abraham on the altar, and he was sharpening the knife, and an angel says, Abraham, wait. A sacrifice has been provided. What we kind of skip over when we read that story is what the angels tell Abraham is God will send his son, his only son, whom he loved. See, God is a God of action. God does not simply say something and then let it fall to the wayside. Everything God says, he does. And there's a whole book of promises fulfilled here. God loves us so much that he was willing to send his one and only son to die on a cross for us, to sacrifice him, his joy for us. But like Abraham, we just have to believe. There's another story he brings up. You see, the man, you see that faith was working with his works. And as a result of the works, faith was perfected. And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, and Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. You see that a man is justified by works and not by faith alone. In the same way was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way. For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead. Rahab trusted. Rahab heard about the greatness of God because God was performing all these miracles, and she knew that with the Jews parked outside the city, when they were all camped out there, that God had already given the city to the Jews. And so she told those two spies, I'll take you in, but I'm going to send you out by another way. Just remember us. Because that God that you follow, he's a big God, and I want to follow him too. Remember me and my family. And the spies told her, hang a scarlet rope out of your window, and you and your family will be saved. And out of all of Jericho, only Rahab and her family were saved, not by anything she did, but by a great faith she had in the God they served. Church, so many of us this morning are living a faith in atrophy. We're living this faith that is dead. Why? Because we might believe that God exists. We might believe that there's a God out there somewhere, but we're not doing anything with our faith. It's like that light bulb we talked about. You're going to buy a whole bunch of light bulbs, just stick them in your closet and hope that someday they'll turn on. It doesn't work that way. Church, we need to turn our faith on. We need to do something with it. It's not enough to just come and show up and sit in the pew week after week. There are souls out there, there are people out there who are perishing, who do not know Jesus Christ. That thought keeps me up at night. There's a lot. But that's one of them. I've got friends and neighbors who don't know Jesus. And I'm not doing anything about it. It's not entirely true. But you get what I'm saying. We know people, and we run into people every single day that are dying. They might physically look healthy, but their soul inside is dried up and shriveled. And someday they're going to be taken and thrown into the fire. And we just walk past those people and we do nothing about it, and we show partiality, and we only come to a place where we're comfortable around the people we're comfortable with. We're telling people you might as well go to hell. I don't care about you. Church, that shouldn't be. Our primary goal of the service in the church should be to go out and preach the gospel. Greg Laurie said in a sermon, he said, church, if you're not evangelizing, you're fossilizing. That hits pretty hard, doesn't it? If we're not going out there and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, then honestly, we might as well lock up the doors, because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. We have this good news, that's the gospel, that this God who loves us so much, who loves our souls so much, who wants us to be with him eternally, sent his son to live a life that we could never live, perfect in every way, obedient in every way, fully human, fully loving, fully fulfilling the law of God. But it wasn't that they did it to him. He allowed it to happen. You see, he didn't stay in that tomb after they killed him. They put him in that grave and they sealed it up and they posted a guard, hoping that would be it. But 3 days later, that stone was rolled away and he got up and he walked out of that tomb. Why? To give us freedom, to tell us that we don't have to be chained to our sins. We don't have to be the people that we are disgusted by every time we look in the mirror. We don't have to put on airs and hope that everything's going to be okay and that no one's going to notice. But we have to send that message out, church. God has not just simply called me. He's called you. If you're here this morning and you've got ears and you're still awake and you're not listening, that's faith without action. Or if you're hearing the words, remember what we talked about last week, if you're hearing the words but you're not doing them, it's like looking at yourself in the mirror and then walking away immediately forgetting what you look like. Church, we've got to be on the move. We're not called to be planted here and just to hope that things happen. This isn't a sanctuary per se. It is. It's a place to come and get healing, but it's also a battle tent. It's where the Master meets with us every week and gives us the battle plan and says, go out, my children, go and do my work and spread my kingdom. I hope you're doing that today. I hope that God has spoken to your heart, and I hope you're moving in more than just to your car and out to lunch after church. But get up and go, church, because faith without works is useless. Our works don't save us, but if we have faith and nothing to back it up, it's not faith at all. Get out there, church. Go make a